like, I don't even like this idea of like, jobs being stolen. But I'm not like an idiot. I can kind of just step into this, mindset and I can see how you're obviously made materially worse off when you don't have a job anymore because it's in a foreign country. Like that's obvious.
Yeah.
But how can it be that you stole their jobs and you still are upset?
Because the job I stole from them isn't as good as the thought of in my head.
The job I stole from them is not as good. Clearly, you want it to be paid by a white person, $200 every day to do nothing. That's the ideal scenario. It's just getting free money from white people. I admit that does sound pretty sweet. If I could get a white person to hand me $200 every day, I admit I too.
I could not run a factory, as we talked about this earlier. This is where I go full ANCAP smiley, evil, like right-wing libertarian caricature, because I would call him the fucking Pinkerton so fast on these people. When they came barging out my door after I saved your shitty little town. I saved this factory. I didn't do it because my fucking dream is to work in a factory. Get back to your fucking workstation. I'm going to have this Pinkerton guard blow your fucking head off. Period.
I mean, really?
I could pick up this town. If you all walked out the door right now and left, I could put up a sign. I could go on Craigslist and put up a post that says, wanted unskilled workers. And in an hour, I could replace you all. You should be coming in here every day and bringing me donuts and saying, thank you for this job. Because before you came along, all I had was a piece of paper from my last job that said, sorry, the jig is up.
Yeah, you would have spent the rest of your life as a talking point on the Tucker Carlson show.
Oh, yeah. Which you wouldn't have been able to watch because you wouldn't have had cable.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Again, it would be nice if they all were millionaires. If we were running the show, they would all be much richer because the economy would be free and all that. I'm not saying they deserve to make $13 an hour. They should be poor or they don't deserve nice things, etc., etc. But we live in the reality we live in. And the fact of the matter is, yes, you can't start your own business because the government won't let you and all. That's all true. But then when someone comes along and offers you something that's better than what you had, you don't get to be mad at them.
And then conspire to raise prices on them.
Conspire against them. Don't be mad at the guy who gives you your shitty job. Okay? If you're mad that you can't get a better job, maybe it's your own fault. That's the Ben Shapiro answer. Or maybe there are larger reasons why you can't get it. It has nothing to do with you. You're just perfect the way you are. You are the smartest, most talented person, but the world is keeping you down. But you know who's not keeping you down? The only person in that world who's writing you a fucking check.
That means there's only one person on planet Earth with a material interest in keeping you alive until tomorrow.
And you marched into his office and said, I want more money. Or I'm going to go be an opioid addict. And he's supposed to say, oh, no, don't do that. No, please. Oh, no, stop, don't. Please. No, he's going to go, fine, fuck off. These are not the American union leaders running your company. Some guy from China, and he's going to say, oh, you want $14 an hour? That's a good joke. Go back to work, please. And you're going to say, no, I won't do it. And he's going to say, okay, fired.
And again, I just want to, you might have heard me say this line a few times. Unions are, it's a good racket if you can get in on them. Right? I don't deny that. But you're not in a situation where you can get in on it. When you try to get in on it, you destroy the town.
Invite the union, destroy the town.
I come from a family. Most of my family members are union members. I will probably be a union member in my choice of employment. Being in a union is pretty fly for a black guy.
Well, now that they let black guys in.
Yeah, now they let us in. It's great. If you can't get in on it, like a good sign that you can't get in on the racket is when you all lose your jobs. Because remember, that's the threat of a union, is that if you fire one of us, you'll have to fire all of us. If that actually happens, pause and reflect.
Yeah, it's bad enough to run a scam.
To fail at the scam and do it again.
Fail the scam. The scam blows up in your face, and then you just say, all right, let's just restart the scam.
If some Chinese guy is dumb enough to come over, we're going to try it again on him. Oh, and another thing that was funny is there's a part in the documentary where they go to the Fuyao factory in China. The workers there are working 12-hour shifts, at least 6 days a week. Do you guys have a union? And the workers say, oh yeah, we do have a union. And they go to the union headquarters and it says, union building and Chinese Communist Party headquarters. Then it's like, so what happens at the union? The union helps us, they teach us to work better together and to be more productive and efficient.
It would be like if in the American version, if they said, oh yeah, that's our union right there. And it was the boss's office. He said, we go in there and he tells us to work harder.
Yeah.
That's our union.
That's our union.
By the way, just to point out real quick, this is part of that Obama deal. The Obamas, they were not actually involved in this project, but they endorsed this project. And now that there's this weird, creepy alliance between the Obamas and Netflix, expect more just schlock like this to be pumped out.
Another thing that I saw was Dave Chappelle's new Netflix special called Sticks and Stones. The only reason I knew it existed is because Vice Magazine published an article saying you can probably skip Dave Chappelle's new Netflix special.
Yeah, which is basically telling you to watch it. Yeah.
Oh no, you can definitely skip Dave Chappelle's new Netflix special. And then, as if to and if that was like a whiff for me of like, maybe I'm interested. Then the subheadline is the comedian doubles down on misogyny and transphobia in both the special and the hidden bonus scene that followed.
And Marcel was hooked.
I was hooked. I gotta watch this now. It was good. It was funny. I'm not about to be like, oh yeah, man, he totally owned those homos. Like, totally watch it. I mean, Dave Chappelle is a funny comedian. I don't want to spoil a comedy routine. Like, watch the routine. I will say, read that Vice article on it. Just, it really is like coming attractions on some of the better jokes.
Yeah, I read the Vice article and the Vice article made me laugh. So
the Vice article made me laugh. I was ready for it.
Everywhere that they would go, and then he said this outrageous thing, I'd go, well, that sounds funny just reading it. So I bet it's really funny.
Let's see if there's anything else about it in particular I wanted to note.
I have not watched it yet. I want to wait until I can really take a whole day and just enjoy it.
It is interesting that Dave Chappelle is, in fact, still a man of the left. Yeah, no, obviously, he's a black Muslim. I mean, he's not going to be voting for Donald Trump, although he repeatedly points out that he benefits from the Trump presidency. In his last routine, he had said something like how he was online at the voting booth and he had seen all the poor whites with their coal-smeared faces talking about how Donald Trump's going to go to the White House and he's going to fight for us. And Dave Chappelle said, you dumb motherfucker, you are poor. He's fighting for me. And then during the epilogue, he takes a Q&A, and one person asks, what are you going to do if Donald Trump wins the election? And Dave Chappelle says, I'll get a significant tax break.
I'm looking at another piece about how, where did Dave go? What happened to Dave?
Yeah.
Same old Dave. You all changed a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but 5 years ago,
he was basically cryogenically frozen in comedic time.
See, there were a couple people who said that on the last specials, and those people still make me sick, but that's fair that they said, hey, Dave didn't change with the times.
Yep.
The ones that make me want to kill them are the ones that make these, what happened to Dave? You used to be cool, Dave. What happened to cool Dave who made fun of the Bush administration? Dave is the same old Dave. You people, your party line has shifted so rapidly and so many times over the last 10 years that someone you laughed at 10 years ago is an unrecognizable monster to you today.
Mm-hmm.
And you think it's his fault for changing. That's the part that gets me, is they're so unself-aware that they think they have stayed the same. 10 years ago, their candidate for president did not support marriage except for between a man and a woman. And now, if the Republican candidate doesn't support marriage, they are they can't believe that it's happening. When Dave Chappelle makes an off-color joke, they go, oh my God, what happened to Dave? And they don't see any irony in that. Oh, they make me sick. Do your review. We got to wrap this up.
Yeah, last one. And the last show I'd like to review is called The Boys, which is on Amazon. It's a very good series. It's about the people whose families were collateral damage superhero activities who have now decided to get revenge by trying to kill superheroes. The 7 main superheroes are called the 7, They have corporate sponsors. Basically, imagine if Kanye West had heat vision. Except for Kanye's narcissism is something of a persona that he puts on. But like, imagine Kanye West's public persona if that was like his private personality. Very good series. Ends on a bit of a cliffhanger. One thing that I found really interesting, and that's actually something we want to talk about, was that the boys pushed an angle on superheroes that I've never seen. In particular, there's a plot point where the corporate sponsors of the superheroes are trying to get them to be part of the military. So they can already do vigilante cop stuff, but they can't, fight overseas. And in most like superhero stories where that's a thing, like it was an Iron Man 2, for example, the military is trying to, appropriate the super weapon, the superpowers, and use it. In this case, the bill to use superheroes won't even leave committee. Dan, do you know why the bill to allow Superman to join the army won't leave committee?
Why?
How many states is Superman made in? How many, like, do the people who make Superman, do they make, how many jobs do they bring?
Yeah.
Right. Did anybody ask Lockheed Martin what they had to say about bulletproof super soldiers joining the military?
I think they were against.
They were against. How about Boeing? Did anybody ask them if they wanted Wonder Woman? And did anybody ask Boeing what they thought of that? As it turns out, that's the main obstacle. I've never seen any work of fiction point this out, because it takes, which tells, I mean, it can't be that like the people who made it are libertarians. Seth Rogen directed this show. This was not, that's like an anti-endorsement, but this was not this was not exactly like a Reason Magazine public choice production. But I just found that really interesting to point that out. The normal mechanisms of congressional corruption and stagnation, ironically, stop. What is, the state, if we view it as, that's why it's good not to view the state as a monolithic entity with its own interests. It is, in fact, a bunch of people all being, selfish like everybody else. Because if you view the state as a monolithic entity, then you would say, obviously, it's in the interest of the state, this thing that wants what's best for us, right, to have Superman on the payroll, right? The state wants, obviously, to have control over these powerful entities. But then if you think about it a step further and just think about all the congressmen who would be voting essentially to get rid of all these rent-seeking positions. And that's like, no, actually, Superman will not be wearing camo. It was really creative. I was actually, and that was one of the things that made me hooked on the show and the world it was creating, because it was very realistic and that was very creative. And I never even thought of it. And just to bring it back to Iron Man 2, in Iron Man 2, when they're trying to steal Tony Stark's suit, it actually should be noted that they had a specific contractor in mind. So it wasn't that Congress in particular just thought it would be good for America's national to have the Iron Man suit. Hammer Enterprises wanted to produce the Iron Man suit and sell it to them at a lower bid than Tony Stark ever would, because Tony didn't want to sell it to them at all. Actually, that bit of that world of defense contractors and the Iron Triangle kind of brought up in Iron Man 2, though that angle was never brought up again. Iron Man 1 kind of brought it up because Obadiah Stane wanted to sell the suit, and then Iron Man 2 brought it up when the government wanted to take it, but it was, again, to give favors to a specific politically connected defense contractor corporation. But, like the Superman movies, Batman, that's never an element of it. The fact that Lockheed Martin and Boeing may have some concerns about being suddenly made obsolete like that.
I will say this show, I've not watched it yet. I don't have. Suddenly, I guess everyone on the earth has Amazon, and now everyone's like, "Oh, you haven't watched The Boys?" I've heard nothing but good things. Red Letter Media really liked it. If it's good enough for Rich Evans and Sexy J Bauman, it's good enough for me. I'll probably give it a watch if I can access somebody else's. So send your Amazon Prime information to The Moral Minority so I can watch the show.
Until next time, I'm Marcel.
And I'm Dan.
And this was The Moral Minority.
And cue Richard Nixon.
Let us be united for peace. Let us also be united against defeat.
That was the worst thing that happened. Listen, I think if you're going to err, I would like people to err to protect me and my family, not err.
It wasn't causing any danger. This was a decorated
You know what? If you're
veteran
bringing
who
up your
had no
kids in the
criminal
Aryan Nation, you are causing danger because you're spawning hate in America.
So now you're going to have...